the tree of life.
I am the founder and executive artistic director of Art Prevails Project, and we thank you for being here, for being to experience our Umoja Cypher Sessions. It's going to be a good day, a lot of just great community and energy, so we're looking forward to that. We'd like to start every session off with something just to get us into a better mind frame, space, and situation. So I'm going to invite a young man to come up and lead us in a little brief meditation. And so if we will suffer and allow him to be in the space with that. So please welcome my friend Joseph Long.
Testing. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, just so I get to know what kind of demographic I have out here, does everyone in this room meditate or have meditated before? Okay, keep your hands up. Out of those of you who have meditated before, how many of you have experienced guided meditation? Good. Okay, so I don't have to start from basics. You can put your hands down. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath, breathe in, and breathe out. Slowly and calmly. Now I would like for you to picture the following scene in your mind. See yourself relaxing by a beautiful, calm lake. The breeze softly blows over the lake and you watch the thousands of tiny ripples it creates on the surface of the lake. Your surroundings here are so calm and pleasant that it brings a feeling of complete peace. This calm feeling washes over your entire body and mind. You breathe in deeply and allow the peacefulness to fill you. You notice the birds singing in the trees, softly chirping and singing songs of their simple happiness. Take the time now to release any worries, any disturbing thoughts, any sadness you may be feeling. Let those feelings flow up, out, and away. Floating far away. Whatever has happened today, last night that has bothered you, it is time to let that go. Know that you are really in control of your mind and your body. You can choose to allow these bothersome emotions to leave. In doing so, you will free up space in your heart and mind for positive things to come. Life is all about creating what you want and choosing good thoughts that make you feel good. When you focus on the positive, you get more positive experiences in your life. Releasing any negative thoughts serves like an umbrella in a rainy day. Sure, the rain is there, but it doesn't have to affect you. In your mind's eye, picture yourself now in a stormy, rainy situation. As you open up your umbrella of positivity, you see how you are really protected by all that is going on outside. You are safe. You don't have to be part of the rainy difficulties. It truly is your choice how you react to whatever comes your way. Know that you have all the tools you need within. Just choose to use them. You can see your life from a happy perspective. Worry, disturbing thoughts, or sadness, or choices of thoughts you think, and you can simply set them free and let them ripple away across the surface of the lake. You can release all the things that you have been stressed about. You can make peace with yourself. Make peace now with the amazing person that you truly are inside. As you look out over this serene lake, nurture yourself with loving thoughts. Release any negative images or ideas about yourself. You have a choice in what you believe. Your mind is your greatest asset and your best tool. Now take in a deep breath. Allow all good feelings to fill up your heart and your mind. Peacefulness and calm are all around you. Now gently open your eyes when you are ready. Namaste. Beautiful work, everyone. Know that whenever you feel anxious, stressed, or you just need a moment to release tension and be in peace, that you always can go into that quiet space and you can return to that peaceful place that you just was at. Go forth on this Self-Care Saturday. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Thank Joseph for that. Joseph does a... You said go in peace. All right. You can find Joseph on Instagram at SlimBrother73. He does meditations, daily meditations, morning and in the evening. So you can check him out there. All right. So that was smooth. All right. So first of all, how many people have ever been to this space right here? Do you have been here? Yes? No? How many have not been here? That's beautiful. So what this building is, this is the Old Dillon Museum, and there are more rooms in this. And anybody that's outside, you guys come in now. I'm just talking, you know. Come on in, bring them in. Bring them on in, bring them in. And so there's spaces up here, ladies. Y'all want to come up here, recently here? I'm not going to bite you. All right, so Dillard High School is a historically black school here in Fort Lauderdale. But this building right here was the Dillard School when it first opened. It was the first school here in central Fort Lauderdale where blacks were allowed to go to school. So they created a museum out of that building when they built the actual other high school, which is around the corner off 27th Avenue. So this is what this building is. And so connected to it is Walker Elementary School, which is a performing arts elementary school. So this building here, the director of the building was here. I don't know where he went. Because he does this a lot better than I do, as far as like explaining the space, because he has a whole spiel. My spiel is just of the knowledge that I have about the space, and I've been here. I've been born and raised kind of in the area. So they do a lot of community-based events, but it's a space. This is a very historical building. So upstairs, you know, when you have time, we have a couple breaks. You can kind of see there's like some artifacts and different things in rooms upstairs. They have another room that that's equipped to play the jazz and such, dedicated to Cannonball Adderley. And this is the space.
Seriously?
So the room. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, my father did an amazing album cover for Cannonball.
What?
My father did jazz album covers, so
Man,
I'm wondering if it's upstairs.
Maybe that would be
Maybe it is.
amazing.
Maybe.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not, I'll donate it to this space.
Oh, look at this. That's what I'm talking about. And so across the hall, there's a room dedicated to, athletes that went to Dillard High School. Dillard High School has a pretty great history of athletes to make it to like the NFL and the NBA.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Thank you for the response, so kind.
My name is Laura Marisier, and we are Miami Sound Choir. We are an inclusive adult community choir in Miami. So if you are 18 and over and you like to sing, you're welcome to come and join us. So we have rehearsals every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Adrian R. Center. So we're going to sing some stuff for you. The first song we have for you is called Umoja. We actually need a microphone for that too. So that's called. The first song we're going to sing for you is called Umoja. It is a traditional Haitian folk song. My family is from Haiti, so I brought this to my friends so that they could experiment with the Creole language. And the story of this song, it's a song that is originally, the story begins in Angola, West Africa. And the king of that nation was named Ngolo. And the word for king in Creole is wa, sometimes shortened to just the letter W. And so when they paired king and his name Ngolo, they got Wongolo. And so this song is dedicated to him, and in traditional voodoo Haitian spirituality, when somebody who is of importance in our culture passes away, they graduate to sainthood, which we call a loi. In the same way that a Catholic person would refer to a saint as a saint, we refer to them as a loi. And so Wongolo is a loi, and so he is revered because he was the last king of Angola, Angola being the first African country to be colonized. And so after his passing and his kingdom falling is when we consider that slavery began in this world. And so what this is, we are grieving the loss of a free blackness. We are grieving the loss of individual people. This song is often sung for funerals, but it is also quite lively and upbeat. So we also sometimes sing it to pass from one part of life into another, like a birthday celebration or a wedding. So it is a song of transitions, a song that says, Wongolo, you left, and the country has changed. Those are all of the words of the song. So without further ado, Caffeinato. We'll sing the solo, and this is Wongolo. next song we have for you is called Taking It to the Streets. It's a song by the Doobie Brothers, which is a rock band from the 60s and 70s. And it talks about somebody who grows up in poverty and is addressing an audience that did not grow up in poverty. And it's saying that there's no way that you could understand the life that I've lived. However, together, if we believe in something, we can take it to the streets. We can fight for the things that we believe in together, even though we don't have the same experiences. The song is called Taking It to the Streets. With no me. Okay.
on guitar. I will go get a cable for you.
I don't think we'll need it, actually.
Okay, we'll need it.
Yeah.
And they'll do just the two of us for you.
Probably three of us.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometime, I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building them castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and
His smile.
and it is called Big Yellow Taxi. She wrote this song on her first ever trip to Hawaii, and she was enamored by all of the beautiful paradise that was all around her, and then in front of all of this beautiful paradise were huge swaths of parking lots, and she was heartbroken. And then sometime later, someone that she loves, the man in her life, was arrested for reasons that she does not disclose in the song, but we can assume that it was for reasons that were unjust. And she's from Canada, and the police cars in Canada are yellow, in the same way that in the United States, our taxi cabs are yellow. And so this is a song that she wrote about those two experiences. Big Yellow Taxi.
They paved paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Shoo, ba, 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 ba. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charged the people $1.50 just to see 'em. Don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Shoo, ba, 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 ba. Hey, farmer, farmer, put away the DDT now. Give me spots on my apples, don't leave me the birds and the bees. Don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Shoo, ba, 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 ba. Late last night, I heard the screen door slam, and a big yellow taxi took away my old man. Don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Don't it always seem to go, but you don't know what you got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Shoo, ba, 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 ba. Shoo, ba, 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 ba.
They're going to take one final quick seat. Right. And we're gonna switch gears one more time because that's what we do. We explore all different kinds of music, and we're gonna have a super sweet opera performance for you. A song called Parfois je suis triste, which translates to sometimes I'm sad, and it will be performed by Alejandra.
Oui, c'est
We got two more songs for you. And I want to make a quick acknowledgement. So in Big Yellow Taxi, I didn't say that beautiful riff that was up high, that was Nightengale-Lee. And then that gorgeous fellow was just the bass. Three soloists, John Alvarez, Nightengale-Lee, and Sophia Tavares.
La
It is an African-American spiritual that is of the Georgia Sea Isles of the Gullah Geechee people, who are considered the first sovereign Black people of this country. Oh, we got lots of souls on it. We got Mary. We got Shakira. We've got Catherine. And we'll have Alejandro home.
jump right into our next portion of the event, which is a good old-fashioned conversation about some things that we need to talk about. But before we do that, I want to welcome up. I mentioned that we are in the Old Villa Museum, so we'll welcome up Easton.
This building that we're in is a literal piece of history. This was the first school for African Americans in Broward County. So there were some folks that were walking as far as Pompano just to come to school here to get an education. The building was built and established in 1924, so it's been here close to 100 years. And we definitely love this building. We thank you all for coming here, being a part of this program. It's not just about being here for the event, but me and Darius talked about it. What type of environment can we set up that kind of feels and kind of meshes into what the program is about? So I'm super excited. We're super excited as a museum to be a partner with you all. These pictures that you see here on the wall, these aren't from New York or Chicago or Alabama. These are from this community right here. The leaders who are from this community. You can see a picture of Dr. James Sistrunk himself, Ivory Mizell, Von D. Mizell. The narrative of this community is on the walls. And this is our last effort to preserve a lot of this history. So as we talk about education today, that's the theme, education. As we talk about education, please keep that in mind that we're trying to talk about education from a Black perspective in a unique way. Not just the conventional Dr. Kings and Malcolm X. We want to touch on that, but also we want to expand that and talk about a lot of our local history as well. So feel free to look around the museum whenever there's an intermission or when the event is over. You guys are more than welcome to look around at some of the history. Our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're looking to expand it a little bit more. However, if you want to do a private tour, we can open up something on the weekend for you all or at a time of day that's more convenient for you. I do most of the tours here, so more than likely it'll be with me. What I will do, I will leave my business cards right out at the front reception desk. So as you guys are leaving, feel free to take a call. My direct cell is on that is on that card, and also my email address. So feel free to reach out, and thank you all again for coming out.
For a while, at first she hated me, but now she's grown to see that I'm not that bad of a person. And she is an educator, a fantastic educator. She teaches at Miami Norland Senior High School. She is a 2016, 17? Miami-Dade County Teacher of the Year. And she was a finalist for the State Teacher of the Year Award, amongst a bunch of other things. So please welcome Dr. Precious Symonette. All right. Secondly, we're gonna welcome up a young lady who, when I read about we got connected through a friend of mine, and when I read about her and her things, I told her why don't I know you? Why don't we know each other? Why aren't we connected already? So she is a professor at Florida Atlantic University, and go out, late hours.
Yeah, go out.
Owls. Hoot. All right. And I know she's going to bring an extreme amount of value to the space. So please welcome Dr. Bianca Nightengale-Lee. And I'm Darius. Hey. All right. Thanks. All right.
You get no class.
No class. All right. So we kind of jump off the conversation. I didn't do a whole lot. So if you all want to give a couple of seconds of who you are, what you do, and then we can get into it. Okay, cool. So we'll get right into it. All right. All right. So the theme of today's conversation is equity in education. So I myself am a former public school educator. I taught 3 years middle school and 7 years high school. And Mom, you sound quiet.
I'll go yell at them.
All right, cool. All right, I taught 3 years middle school and 7 years high school, and I saw a lot while I was there, and I saw, as far as equity in terms of education is concerned, as a student, when you're in it, you might not realize it. You just, I'm going to school and whatever, you know. But on the other side of it, things were illuminated for me, and so I kind of want to just kind of throw that as a volley, a lob up in the air. So, like, when you hear the ideas of equity in education, what are your first thoughts, ladies?
Well, I can start this, okay. Hello, everyone. Bianca, nice to see you all. So I was elementary and middle school teacher for about 13 years. I taught middle school for a time in Detroit, Michigan. I'm originally from Detroit. And so I taught in Detroit, I taught in Louisville, Kentucky, and now I'm here as an assistant professor, right? And so I've taught in a couple different areas and regions. And so when I think about equity, I first start off with myself, just because I was retained, labeled, and tracked by the age of 7. So like learning disabled, in the lowest reading group, all of these negative things, right? And so when I think of equity, I take it back to how my experience was so inequitable, right? And it's something that has pushed me to become an educator. And so having my own experience with inequity and then experiencing it as a teacher and now as a researcher of education, I would say at the heart of it is a mismatch between the students and the curriculum, right? There's a curriculum kind of dissonance between who the students are, who the teachers are, and the curriculum that we're kind of forced to use as educators. So that's kind of right there. And then another layer of that is the teachers themselves. So what I do at Florida Atlantic, I work with pre-service teachers. So I'm like their first introduction to what is education all about. And so a lot of the things that we talk about is how we build trust with students. So before the standards, before there's curriculum, before there's anything else, there's that relationship. And maybe you can go back to think about a teacher that really touched you, right? And it didn't matter really what that teacher said or did. You was going to fall in line because you had that relationship. The problem that we have today, and I know you could attest to it as well because you see it all the time, is there's a lack of relationship and trust that this teacher sees me, this teacher hears me, and wants the best for me. So I think that's a roundabout way of saying that there's a lot of issues with education, as we all know, but I think for me, my stance is, what can we do within the classroom? So the curriculum is one thing that teachers can control, and the ways in which they relate and see and hear their own students is something we can work on.
Work, yeah, for sure.
Hello everyone, nice to be here. I'm going to get back to that story that Darius mentioned about me hating him, but I'll do that later. I completely agree with everything that you said, and there's like a couple of touch points that I have, but I can tell you that very early on in my career, so like I'm originally from Broward, but I teach in Miami-Dade. And my experience being in the thick of education, I knew really, really early on in my career that there was inequity. So I went to Hollandale High School, but I did dual enrollment classes at Nova. I immediately saw differences, right? I had the best teachers at Hollandale High School and the best resources at Nova. And I would often say, dang, if they could both come together, it would be totally dope. I got in trouble a lot in high school by my mouth. I would ask questions that were not so kosher. And knowing that I wanted to be in education, you know, I think that was just the way of my life had to go. Being an educator, you absolutely see a lot of inequities, right? And it's constantly a reality check, and it's a lot of self-reflection. So are you going to be the teacher that's like easily to like conform and fall in line? Or are you going to be the teacher to break the status quo? It actually took me allowing my students to use their voices for me to get the courage to break the status quo. And believe it or not, out of the mouth of babes, it was middle school. And I dared to do something different from the boring curriculum, right? So I went to school for creative writing, and it was not creative writing. It was like a remedial writing class. I could literally go to class every single day and see what I was doing was literally sucking the life out of my kids. And I no longer wanted to be that particular educator. So I decided to say, you know what, guys, we're not going to do this today. You know, I want you to take out your journals and write whatever is on your mind. If you curse, it don't matter. Don't focus on grammar, don't do any of that. And my kids did exactly that. They told me some things that I did not know. And I think that was a really big ego boost to me as an educator. And I can tell you that's a big fear of a lot of educators. They don't want to know that they're not amazing, because in their mind they are, right? I said, damn. Okay, so they are, right? So when you have a student that's telling you that you're not, how are you going to respond to that? And I think it involves a lot of self-reflection, you have to go those places. So I decided to go that place, and that was a really difficult year for me, because people literally thought that something was wrong with me. Like, they thought I was insane, like something was going on. Things were not perfect. And my principal kept saying, why are you going against the grain? Why are you doing this? And I was like, I'm not at peace. And it was because of that particular student. So thank God that I did have that student in my class, and that she was brave enough, because she gave me the courage that I needed to change my curriculum around. And I think with that being the case, many issues with classes right now is students are not the focus of every single classroom. Their voices are not elevated, because many people who are in education, they don't know what they're doing. Many people in education who are in leadership positions they don't know what they're doing. And when teachers try to explain certain things to them, they look down on teachers, which is baffling to me, because we actually went to school for this. And if you allow us to do our work, life will be better. Okay, tag your ed.
Yeah, so great stuff. And so this is an interactive, I want you all to engage in this, but even that, right, it's the fact that many administrators were teachers. For me, that's what gets me a lot. It's like, once you become an administrator, you forget that you were a teacher, and you don't connect, and now you're the man. Like, I'm the man, and y'all peons. Well, I mean, I say the man in quotes, like the boogeyman or right, the boss man, right? So, so it's interesting that you're talking about that, because again, for me, I taught. But I didn't go to school for that, right? So, you stunning on me like that. All right, so, so initially, I was in corporate America, and people were telling me, like, oh, you should teach. And I'm like, nah, I don't want a job, right? I'm not trying to be a teacher as a job, right? Because I didn't want, for me, I was like, oh, if I have kids, I don't want somebody teaching my kids who just needed a job, who just needed something to do, to get a paycheck, right? I didn't want that. And so for a long time, I rejected it. I was doing like teaching artist stuff prior to that, but like to say I'm going to go into the classroom and teach like 120 kids, like, nah, I didn't want to do that. But some things inspired me to do that, and then I went to school for it and got some instruction regarding it. But like my first year teaching, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I did not know what I was doing. But what I was doing was trying to follow the curriculum that they gave me. And it sucked. Yes. And nothing was happening. I was teaching 7th grade reading, and they were not, fights and it was a wild time. And it wasn't until I'm like, I'm not gonna do this, because this ain't working. And I may not have been, I've gone to, got a degree in education, but I'm smart enough to know that this ain't working. So why am I gonna keep doing this? And so that's when I brought in, the ideas of creativity. I brought in creativity, music, hip hop, poetry into the classroom, and then there became a connection. Then there became some things that the students then making them the center of the experience, right? I kind of flipped that paradigm. It's like, oh, well, this is what we're gonna do, and it became a different experience for me. And now all of that led me to like where I am today. So speaking about the curriculum and such, maybe ladies, you can touch on the ideas of like culturally. Cultural responsive teaching and pedagogy and stuff, like why is that important, and how specifically for students that, if we are honest, the American education system was never designed to really teach, right? So why is it important, to be able to kind of switch the curriculum or cater curriculum that is more multicultural and culturally responsive?
So, I think when you're talking about culturally responsive teaching, if we are being completely honest about elevating student voice, we have to first realize and respect the fact that they are a resource. They are the experts of their own lives, right? So one of the worst things, in my opinion, a teacher could do is have a student come into a class and talk down on them as if they are better than them. That's like one of the biggest no-nos ever in life. Every time I see it, I pull my coworker aside. What are you doing? Secondly, you want to ask them their interests. What are their experiences? And from those things, you could kind of sort of have points of references of who you can bring into the classroom. I think many people, they have the buzzwords. In education, there's always trends and buzzwords, and everybody talks like they know it, and they probably read like 3 articles tops, and they become the experts, right? But none of them really take the opportunity to kind of sort of digest those things and try to experience those things for themselves. And I think once you understand what culturally responsive teaching is, it becomes a part of you.
What is it?
Right? Culturally responsive teaching is where you center the students in your classrooms, right? You want to know their culture, right? Because let's just say I'm speaking to a student from another country and they never look me in the eyes. If I don't know where that comes from, I can say, oh, that student has been extremely disrespectful. If I have a young lady sitting in my class and she talks with a little sass, you're gonna have to get out because you're being disrespectful. I don't know where she comes from. It's culture, so now you're pushing black girls out. If you have young men sitting in a class and it may seem as if they are aggressive or angry or whatever, oh, you may be a threat. This is not how you act into the classroom. Understanding their culture, where they come from, and using that as a resource coupled with whatever curriculum you are using. That is what culturally responsive teaching is.
Yeah, everything you say, right? Absolutely. I think that what it's really about, to your point, is teachers decentering themselves and recentering students, but it's also about whose frame of reference are you entering the classroom through? Whose frame of reference? So I'm going to tell about an example that happened recently. So my partner and I, he's in the audience right now, his name is Brian Knowles. So he and I do research in Palm Beach County. And so we were working in a high school that was a special class that was all black students. And there was a white teacher, and she reached out to Brian, if I could put you on blast a little bit. She reached out to Brian and was like, hey, I'm not connecting with the students, can you come in? So we came in, and we just sat back and watched, and a lot of the stuff that we do is hip hop based, specifically for black boys, but this was girls and boys in the classroom. And so we sat back and just watched the teacher teach. And the first thing she started talking about was the Met. So you know the Met Gala and the museum, the Met. And so she was talking about, guys, the Met, because of George Floyd, now has a black person who's leading their orchestra or something like that. Isn't that great? And then she showed the picture of the black man on the little playbill. And so the students were like, first of all, what are you talking about? Second of all, what is the Met? Right? There was a disconnect. And she was kind of like patting the Met on the back, like the Met is being responsible because a black guy died, and now they're going to talk about a black guy being a part of the Met. Isn't that good about the Met? Right? So there was a complete disconnect. And when I say frame of reference, that came from her frame of reference because her daughter is in ballet and her other daughter plays the violin or something like that. So the Met is important to her and to her frame of reference. But for the students, they don't know what the hell the Met is, and they don't care what the Met is. One student actually said, what are we talking about? He said it out loud. And so when we talk about culturally responsive, culturally relevant pedagogy and teaching, it really is about what frame of reference are you going to enter the classroom with. Is it going to be through your lens? Because if it's through your lens, you're going to fall on deaf ears, especially with African American students who have already been disenfranchised from the classroom anyway, who've already not been given a voice, right? So you have to recenter them in the conversation. It seems so simple.
It does.
But people have been indoctrinated, right, into this whitewashed way of educating, so they don't know how to look beyond that. But really, that's what we need in teacher preparation, from administration, right? It has to be a complete shift. We need to.
We should. That's really dope. What is this gonna be? What would his role be? Because I don't know.
I'm saying, because y'all talk to each other and y'all didn't even look at
Oh,
me.
sorry.
Like I wasn't even in the discussion. We need to do this. We need to do this. Like,
So, another thing I want to add to that is I believe in being vulnerable and honest with my kids, right? Vulnerability is a strength. And I can tell you the more human I am, the more it breaks down so many barriers in my classroom and our kids and I. I've literally walked into, when the situation with George Floyd happened, everybody said, don't talk about it. Guess what Dr. Symonette did? I went into the room and I talked about it. And my administrators came like, oh my gosh. I said, you should get a seat. Come in, and many of my administrators did participate. But I want to go back just a little bit. Omissions are lies, right? And when we are talking to our students about history, about education, it is very, very important for us to be honest. I teach 9th through 12th, and if my students are very, very strategic, they could have me for about 4 classes every single year, right? Because I teach different type of writing preps, but they can also use me as an intern. Seniors and juniors were not wanting to take this stupid SAT. Why do we gotta take this SAT? They test us every day. This is stupid, this is dumb. I wanna go to college, but I can't do it. I said, so let's have a talk about the SAT. SAT was created by a Nazi. They're like, what? The SAT. You were never meant to take the SAT. What you mean? I said, oh, well, the SAT was an intelligence test. And considering around that time, you weren't considered to be human, you weren't smart enough, weren't smart at all, it wasn't for you. And so they're like, wait a minute, what are you trying to say? That conversation was so deep to the point where they not only wanted to prove everybody wrong, but they wanted to prove it to themselves. And this is why I said that. Our students, predominantly Black students, have trained themselves to think that they are not smart enough. You put them in an AP or dual enrollment class, the first thing they say, I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not going to be able to do that. Why? Because the narrative is framed that way. Pretty soon you don't have to tell them to try for these advanced academics courses because they truly believe that they are not smart enough. It's literally set up that way. So most of the teachers who are in classes, the ones that actually get it, they spend maybe first marking period trying to help them to unlearn that narrative so that they can show them how to write a new narrative. Omissions are lies, so we have to first tell them the truth, right? And get them to see that education is important for them. Certain little quotes, if you want to keep something from a Black person, put it in a book, right? I was like, guys, like, where do you think that comes from? And why are we laughing? Like, why is that funny? He said, well, you know, it's kind of true. But why is that true? Let's talk about that, right? So, like, having them to have those conversations is very important. Once again, that is culturally responsive teaching. Why? Because the educational system was never built with them in mind. That is their point of reference.
hold on. So, with all that, do we think that students, because every student don't have a Dr. Symonette in their classroom. They don't. And so, how is equity achieved in that sense? Because it's only so many of you or Bianca's or whomever, me, or to go around. And so how do we actually get that beyond? Because like for me, like I'll tell you, so like I taught, so Niall right there is one of my former students. Even though we look like the same age, I know, because I look young, not that you look so old, not that you look so old. All right, so, you know, one of the reasons I left the school system was I wanted to try to reach more people, more students. So, but what happens to the students that are in the classroom? And so, I had that kind of debate with myself with leaving the school, leaving the classroom, and leaving those students that I desire to go and impact like that and be able to actually hold and touch, right? So, what happens? Like that's like what like really like what is? Are we just at such a deficit that it's almost I won't say, I mean, I don't like impossible, but like that, is the hills too steep?
I think what Bianca's doing is really well, is really good, like mentoring and working with teachers, that definitely helps. I think coaching, so like I'm a coach, I coach and I mentor teachers, that helps. But also I need a squad, like I have a squad, I squad up. Like I can't do this work by myself. Like it gets very lonely, it could get very tiresome, and it could get pretty serious. So you need to squad up with other teachers, right? And sometimes you may find yourself wanting to give up. But when I look at the students sitting in my class, I don't see just them, I see the generations that's coming after them. Impact one student and you can impact generations. And many students are walking around with a lot of generational trauma. And what gets me is like, I hear students say, a majority of teachers don't care. And I said, who was it? Mm-hmm. And they say, it was in 4th grade. They can tell you the story like it happened yesterday. Like the person is right there. And I bring certain students in around certain teachers that I know who really don't want to be there. I want them to hear it from the kids. That may be passive aggressive, or I could take the story and go to them, but it sounds so much better coming from them because it's their voice and it's their story, right? And I think some of those things help, but also you mentioned it earlier, relationships, right? So like, and by no means, I am not taking up for administrators, but all administrators are not bad. It's relationship 101, right? Most of the gripes that a lot of people have in education, like as far as like school, let's talk school, they're not my gripes because I understand I'm a people person. I like to build relationships with people. If I'm having a bad day, I have no problems going into my principal's office. I need a minute to talk. When can we schedule this? If I get emotional, I'm just gonna get emotional and you're gonna sit in your seat and you're gonna deal with it. Why? Because you're my principal and I'm here at your school and we're in this together. You have to understand like what's happening in the classrooms. I think a lot of teachers are not willing to do that because they expect them to know. And unfortunately, we give people too much credit. The more you're out of the classroom, the more you become detached from the classroom. But if you don't have points of reference, like me coming to tell you, right, then you get further and further and further away.
It's a big question.
It is.
So it's a couple different things that I'm thinking about. I think about the systems that we've already talked about, how they were not designed for us anyway. We're living and existing in a colonialized, Eurocentric based educational system, right? So that's just off the top. So I think the frustration that you felt when you got into education, the frustration that pushed me out of public school education, the frustration you're battling with right now is that tension between who we are and what the system is built for us. It's like a ceiling. We can only go so far because the system is not going to reflect us. So understanding that first, I think is important, and then understanding where the fractures are in that system. So if I'm a teacher in the system, it feels heavy to say, you messed up. Like, you're not going to get out of this situation. I don't want to say that, but I want to say that you have to find fractures and cracks where you can get in there and make a mess a little bit, kind of what you're doing, bringing in the teachers, having them sit down with students and letting them hear that. We don't have enough people who have the courage to do things like that, but I think you have to find those cracks in the system where you can get in and make it a mess and then clean it up and make it what you want it to look like, right? So I think that's number one. But I also think that if we really, like for Black children specifically, we got to do our own thing. We have to create our own school. There's no other way to get it done unless we do it ourselves. Like community schools, like taking from what happened before integration happened. If we did something like that, that's what we need to do. If we can't do that, something else that needs to happen is teams of people who are talking about who are the most disenfranchised, who are the most, I don't say achievement gap, the opportunity gap, like which demographic of students are most at risk. And then having collective conversations around how do we develop curriculum for those students. It can't be one size fit all. Look at all these people in the room. We're not one size fit all, but our public school education tells us that's the way in which we have to teach. It's backwards. It doesn't make sense. So we need to have collective conversations. And when I say collective, teacher, professors, researchers, administrators, all sitting down and thinking about it's kind of like okay, I don't want to say this, but my father was in the hospital a couple weeks back, right? He has some heart issues, and he's in Detroit, so I went up there to see him. And what was so interesting was that all of these doctors started coming in. There was like a kidney doctor, a heart doctor, this doctor. I'm like, whoa, and they were all on the same page. I'm like, Dad's not doing well. And they came in and like, we've talked and we've had meetings and I'm like, education, we have black boys specifically at the very bottom, but how often do we have collective conversations around what we're gonna do from an administrative standpoint, from a curriculum standpoint, from a relational standpoint? We don't have those conversations, but why not? That's the thing that needs to happen. If we can't build our own schools, we still need to have those conversations that are just not one size fits all.
Cool. Thank you. Any question?
So my question was your question, funny enough, but I'm gonna change it now. And I wasn't gonna say this well. So one is a thought, and then the second thing is a question. The first thing is, so I'm finishing up my bachelor's degree in like a few months, right? Soon. And I said it to you too. I was like, I have no intention of going past it, right? Or I had no intention. And I think spaces like this are important because the moment two black women who are both doctors sat right there, that was the first time in my mind I was like, maybe. You know, I like,
What?
and
You were inspired?
yes, right? And so I think like that's powerful. This is powerful. And so that was just a thought. The question is though, so while I am in an interesting place, right, where I both am an educator, but I'm also not too far removed from high school, right? So I had the experiences of having teachers that sucked, right? And then also having people like him and like you and, you know, people that I met very late that then started to shift the way I saw myself and the way that I was taught to see myself. That's an interesting perspective. And so I wonder, for the people who are not educators, right? Or like, you know, I know that probably there's some people in here are parents or just the person who cares to see a difference. What can we do?
That was my question over here.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna address your question, right? And I think one, to start, teachers are a resource and they are partners. Like with me, like when I speak to my, like, case in point, when the kids get their intern reports, you put comments. My comment every single semester is a 0-3. My kids just like, why do you want to talk to my parents? Why? I got an A in this class. I say, so I want to speak to your parent. I'm going to say, hi, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you, right? And I do that on purpose because I want to build a relationship with the parent. It's a partnership because when your baby is with me, your baby is my baby. That's my kid, you know, and I want you to know that. Parents, many parents, no, if it's not something bad, they're not willing to take the time to come listen. Because once again, this is a way of thinking about it, right? Don't waste my time with something that's not bad, which sends a message to the kid. So if I'm doing great or good, it's not gonna matter. Only when I get in trouble. That's like a thing that I just don't, like, it's not a good thing for kids, right? Two, I have watched how some administrators and some teachers speak down on parents. And that's where I switch hats and I become a parent. And I'm looking at my colleague and I'm saying what they're, you know what I'm saying, trying to sort of like this role-playing thing. I say, oh, did you feel a particular way? That's exactly what you just did with the parent. Now they're never gonna come back to the school. So I think even parents knowing how to advocate for themselves, right? Like this kind of like this Bill of Rights thing that happens. Parents can make a lot of noise and get a lot of stuff changed. But unfortunately, in many black neighborhoods, that's not the case. I think if more involvement was there, but also this is also part of the school too, because the school is not always a welcoming place. Schools should be safe havens. Parents should feel welcome to come in, that they're not going to be disrespected and talked down to, and whatever the case it is. Many parents don't come in a lot because they don't want to deal with that. but I also feel like the schools need to do their part, right? And also, once again, teaching kids how to advocate for themselves, because sometimes, and this is a reality, parents are not always around, right? So like, one of my pet peeves, I go into a class and I know I have that student and the teacher is mispronouncing the student's name. That ticks me off. And I said, I'm sorry, did you change your name? did you? I just had you. Like, no, Dr. Symonette. What they called you? Oh, did I mispronounce it? You did. Tell them how to pronounce your name. You know what I mean? But that shouldn't happen, right? A kid should not be in a class and the teacher's like, well, whatever, you know what you. No, they don't.
About it. But what I would say is to be involved in school board meetings, to come out and be a voice in that experience, to understand who is sitting on the school board in these positions, who are making decisions about what happens, who the superintendent is, what happens, what kind of curriculum, all these things, being aware of that. And then if they're not doing the things that are benefiting the people that you care about, vote their asses out, right? Like that's, like you have the power to do that as a citizen and as a community member. You have the power to stand up and say, this is what needs to be happening. You all aren't speaking for all of us. You all aren't. So if I view I'm not a teacher, but a lot of my friends are principals in Broward County and educators, and we have conversations, and just me watching and seeing like what's happening with the Broward County School Board. It's a lot of shenanigans happening with the Broward County School Board. It's was it?
Every school board.
Well, yes, I feel you. Yeah, and I can imagine. And it's like, well, they strategically, if different people are running for school board positions, and then next thing you know, when we talk about truth being taught in the classroom, that's not going to happen. And then you talk about generations, how does that impact generations? Because trust, truth before now wasn't really being taught in the classroom, but now they're like super afraid that anything that sounds like what America really is about, and now you whisper the ideas of diversity or equity, you just whisper that thing. Now you get in trouble, right? That's so. But we have the power as voters to try to make something happen as much as we can. Again, there's a whole different conversation about the power of the vote, blah, blah, blah. But we talked about that in one of the previous Cypher sessions. This is about education. All right. So think about that. Think about being a voice. Like, stand up and you go to a school board meeting, and whether you have children or not, right? Just because I don't have any kids, I have nieces, but I care about what's happening in the community. I care about what's going to happen with the students that are there, because listen, if we have like these are your community members, and so if they're not being taught in a certain way, they're going to become adults. Who are these adults that you are dealing with on a daily basis that have not been taught in a certain way? How does that infect, but also affect the community? What happens there? And so whether you got kids or not, you should be listening and paying attention, because this affects you. This is going to affect, if you want to break it down, it's going to affect your property tax value and all that kind of stuff, right? What happens there? So we have to think about it more globally.
But also thinking about what you just mentioned about the community, educating kids is not a 4x4, right? It's not a bell to bell. Students learn in classrooms, but they learn out. Experiential learning is a thing, right? So I have babies who have been born and raised in Miami, and when I talk to them about Virginia Key Beach, they're like, yeah, I know, it's over there. Okay. How did you ever visit? Right? That's a part of educating. That's a part of the experience. So taking, students there to have it, taking them to like a school board meeting, taking them to like a city council meeting. Those are all experiences that carries over to educating the kid. And most they don't see it as that. It's like a burden. It's too much money. right? It's this, it's that. It's like a lot of excuses. Like now, when we went on virtual learning, every student had an electronic device because we're virtual learning. When we came back, many students did not have an electronic device. So where'd it go? What happens? They had to turn them back in, right? So now you have half of the students with an electronic device, others are not. So if I have a class that has like a technology component, am I supposed to fail? Like, what, do I do that part? What's gonna happen? So like a lot of those things could fall on the teacher, but the school board members, and like I said, I don't work in Broward, I work in Dade, and I can tell you that our school board member is one of the most active. He calls people out unapologetically, and I'm always like, I record because it's like epic. I love it, right? And then people listen. They respect his work. They respect his passion. I love my superintendent. The work that people do, and what people say and what they do, it has to be consistent for me, right? And once again, I'm not afraid of having those conversations. But once again, it's relationships, right? Like I have certain parents, if they have some questions about certain things, they have me they have my phone number. They could call and ask me those things. I think relationships matter because when the students leave the classroom, they're going through the community, right? What are community members doing to help to improve the educational experiences of students? That matters.
Any more questions? Any things from anybody here? We're all in space.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share, as a student, this was very eye-opening, and as a person, a Black person, this is just crazy. And I feel like this crowd was so much bigger with so much more teachers and educators, because I feel like this is definitely something that needs to be
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so she's a student, she's an intern with us. So she's a high school student, and the other one back there. Yeah. All right. Anybody else say anything? No? Quiet. All quiet. All the singing and stuff y'all doing. Right.
So I'm a teacher as well. I teach English and I teach history. And my school, it's just where I started. I don't plan on staying there. It's a private school. And its model is one-on-one individualized teaching. And you tailor the entire course to the student and what they like, what they're interested in, what they can do, and their abilities. And I get so frustrated sometimes because it's why isn't this accessible to more people? And we have scholarship programs and things like that for our school, but it's not enough. And we have a total of 2 Black students on campus as well.
I'm sorry, you said a total?
A total of 2 Black students. Yeah. And when it comes to teaching history, I always try to be as honest as possible with them about what happens. And they get really confused. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, the U.S. is not on your side, my friend. So I don't know, it's just really interesting to hear about your experiences. And I hope that I can help in some way someday soon.
I think it's important. You're helping where you are, right? You can, at certain points in life, right? You can only do as much as you can in that moment. So if you're there doing what you say you're doing, then you are being of a benefit in that moment, in that space, right? But I understand. You're like, yeah, okay, I don't want to stay here. I gotta go. I understand that. But while you're there, we talk about it, I did disrupt while you're there, to the point where you still can get a job somewhere else. But disrupt enough, to make sure that these students, you're leaving them with something, where they aren't just feeding off the regurgitated information that they've been given.
Yes. I would say too, thank you for what you do, teacher. I'm a professor, but I'm a teacher always, right? And so what I'll say to you is that on your journey, what's going to happen, because I can tell you're already vested in the truth and saying things and being an activist, your activist voice will start to develop and evolve as you move from this private school to wherever you go next. You're going to find that the things that you say now are going to just grow and intensify as you go on this journey. Do you have a master's already?
No. I don't.
Okay, so when you go back to get your master's, right? Like, no, for real, like when you go back, like your clarity on what you're gonna look for is gonna be so much different, and so that voice is going to intensify. B, can you sit back just a tag? I can't see my, okay. Thank you. And so because really, like I'm a professor, right? So I'm not saying go back to school because I want you to spend more money at school, but there is power in going back to school with a clarity. Like I'm going to go back with this nugget of knowledge and this inquiry, and I'm going to research it and understand it, to not just understand education, but understand yourself. So when you come out of that, your voice is a little bit louder, and I'm sure you can speak to it too. Like every time we got a degree, the voice got a little bit louder. You sat up with the posture got a little bit different, right? Like the Bianca from 2000 is not Bianca now, right? So I say that to say, hang on to hope where you are, find the cracks and make a mess where you are, but then that's gonna grow.
So when I finished my doctoral degree, I was approached by my university to teach. I said no. I said I teach at Miami Northern Senior High School. They said, yeah, but you could definitely take a couple courses. I said no, my plate is full. When they told me what I was teaching and who I would be teaching, I said yes. So I'm in the educational leadership department. So people who are aspiring APs or principals, they take my courses. It's so exciting. So we are having these conversations in class, and they're doing like post discussions or whatever. It's kind of weird though, because sometimes I feel a little bit awkward. They're principals, but I'm their professor, and they're talking. They know me as Sim, Miami-Dade teacher, But even sparking up those conversations, so I would say that, right, where you are, it is okay to have conversations with people. And many people are not going to be ready. Many people are not going to be ready for certain things. If you want to be culturally responsive in any space, right, you have to first start with self. And many people are not ready to do that self-reflective work because they are afraid of what they're going to see. Many people are not there, so you have to meet people where they are. And if that person isn't ready, move on to the next person and move on to the next person. Continue to have conversations and build relationships with people, and that will definitely help to, turn things. Be a long road, but at least you know that you are moving in the right direction and that you are doing something.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm also a teacher. I teach in Dade County, down in Homestead. And well, the first thing I wanted to say was that I admire anybody that goes and does a master or any higher education, because I feel like you're saying, when you have had the experience in the career or in the workplace, and then you go back to school, like you have a more refined lens of what you're going for. And so I think of a specific example in Naples, Florida, because I grew up actually on the other coast, born here, but then over there and back and forth. But there's this woman that started orchestra programs all over the place, and it was very, very successful. And she went out to this area called Immokalee, Florida, where there's a lot of Mexican families that live there. And so she's grown from nothing all these amazing music programs. And so I feel like when people go through that experience, they're so invigorated from all the conversations and the things that they've come up with these colleagues, and then everybody there is kind of of the like mind, and then you go into the workforce again, and then it's I feel even harder because it's there's so much working against you. And so I did my bachelor's in education, and then I did my master's in trumpet performance. So I am interested in going back possibly for an education master's. But so yeah, I guess that was the first part of explaining appreciation for wanting to go up there and try to make big changes happen. But my question for my situation would be, suggestions for how to keep ourselves fueled up to keep doing this, this process and journey, and how to ignite it in the other folks around us. Because I feel like a lot of the teachers that I work with, because I'm still a pretty fairly new teacher, but a lot of the teachers I work with are burnt out already from the beginning, and I kind of start soaking that in, and yeah, jaded, absolutely, and kind of just bound by their contract only type of situation. Hey, it's 3:20, let's go. And I'm I can't. There's this after-school program that we have at my school, and I haven't volunteered to be part of it, but just by need of what's happening, and some teachers not being available, I just end up being in my classroom just to be there to kind of watch the kids when they have their after school snack before they go off to the different classrooms for that situation. But just kind of noticing just gaps in, that connectivity between the staff at the school. So, and like I said, still being new, like I'm not trying to like stir the pot too much, but like I make a lot of these observations, and like me personally, I have ADHD. So like as a neurodivergent individual, like I'm so hyper aware of many of these kids' needs. So like it gets more frustrating and stressful because it's like, you want to make so much change happen instantly. So I guess, how do I stir the pot nicely?
Can I say something real quick before y'all answer? I want to say something about because I know when I answer the squad up, right? I say squad up.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But I also think, so when you walked in, I was like, how's teaching been with COVID, right? Because after COVID, the students have been different.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm tired. But something I think that's special, I think of all of you, I don't know you as a teacher, but I can see that, right? Is that it burns you out less when you actually experience the students as people, right? I had some of my favorite teachers were the ones who did what you did. Like, I'm staying after school, but they're not just watching you, right? They're like, I'm learning about who you are. We're talking, and like I genuinely have a connection here, and like they're talking about what they know, and then actually caring about what I know too, and so it's kind of like having not saying you have to be friends with everyone, but it's like it's. Well, we talk about barbershop conversations. You never come out of the barbershop and be like, oh my God, I've just been in the barbershop, when you have good conversations. And so I think that's one way to stay in touch.
Like relationships, like you talk about, building relationships.
But I could also say, have fun with your kids. Have fun. Like, I have fun with my students. Like, we have fun, right? But we also learn and we work hard. But I think everything is in balance, right? And we need to find a spot for that. And once again, like, first of all, like, thank all of you guys in the audience who are educators, because we're colleagues, right? And so, like, I want to first tell you that if no one has told you today, that you are awesome and that you are loved, right? And you have to find teachers who are going to breathe life into you, because you're constantly breathing life into everybody else. And we can't keep doing that to ourselves, right? So don't sit in the lounge either. Don't go there. Don't go there. Because they suck the life out of you, so you can't go there. But also something, I don't know how familiar you are with mindfulness, right? Like, and this is something that I practice, but take it seriously. Like, try something and make sure how you hold yourself accountable for grading your assignments and put it in those grades and all that. Hold yourself accountable for showing love to yourself. And you have to be adamant about that. If you don't, you are going to burn out. And then you want to have a buddy to hold you accountable. There's only two people at my school that could kind of sort of whip me into shape, right? Symonette, and it's like how they call my name and they do all this extra stuff, they embarrass me. Okay, fine, let's go, right? And I gave that role to them because I know they are going to make sure I hold myself accountable. Find you someone who's gonna love you like that.
Also, reach out to her. Reach out to her, because she can help breathe
you
some
are in day,
life into you.
I mean, you all the way in. That's a field trip.
I think his brother had his hand on first, so
Okay.
let's come on down.
You started speaking my language. I was going to stay quiet, and I'm about to go, Darius, because I'm also a thespian. I sing, act, and stage manage. And my phone been beeping for the last hour. I have actors at the theater up the road, and they're waiting on me. But I consider myself a teacher as well. I went to FIU for elementary education with a specialty in TESOL. And my mom, bless her heart, could kill me because I dropped off right before that semester where you actually sit in the class. So I finished all my courses but that. And I loved it. I even substitute taught for 2 years, and I loved it. I always taught younger folk. But one thing my professors used to tell me and classmates used to tell me is that they don't see me in the actual classroom. Because of my teaching style, when I was in school, I would go in there and the thespian always came out. Like I turned a whole lesson into a game show. Or I did a lesson with puppets and we taught about the creation story. So I had the teacher to be like, I don't see you as a teacher, but that always was my style. Even as a substitute teacher, I would have teachers bring their unrowdy kids in my class because I got them in order. That was my first thing, nipping in the bud. This is my expectations, but you could throw me in a Spanish class and I knew enough of Spanish to keep that class in order. So my point is, I left that, but I still consider myself a teacher. Right now, as Darius mentioned, I have a platform where I do live meditations, but my different spin on it is that I also incorporate inspirational messages. You guys mentioned earlier about and I don't remember the technical term, about the cultural thing. And what resonated in my head is that the classroom is a representation of the global involvement. The teacher coming in there and not investing in their students or seeing them important. We as adults do that to one another. We amongst each other, a black lady will come up and we interpret her as being attitudinal. We do that amongst each other, and when I say we, I'm referring to black people. We do that. It has to start there, and the kids, and I'm just throwing out comments and you just give me your feedback on it, but our children see how we interact with one another. And on my platform, the underlying basis, I meditate, I talk about spirituality, but the underlying basis is unconditional love. No matter what you look like, who you love, who you associate with, your age, disability, all of that, we all are interconnected. We all are responsible. We all are our brothers and sisters keeper, no matter what we look like. And I think that as an adults, we have to incorporate that. We have to, and that's why I can stay quiet any more longer. When you told the brother here, you have to be accountable on it's self-love, it's self-care. And if you can't give that to yourself, then go into a space where you can go get that from. So I'm gonna say that spiel, but I wanna hear y'all feedback on that before I run, because they're probably gonna cuss me out when they see this.
So what I hung on to from what you said was unconditional love. And so I think that when I think about unconditional love and I think about education, part of the, again, the dissonance there is that unconditional love is an Afrocentric indigenous practice, right? And the problem is education, or the system of it, is not centered in indigenous ways of being and knowing. So I can understand why that unconditional love, it's hard to find. You're like grasping for it, but it's hard to find because you're in a system that doesn't value that as much. So you have to fight to find that unconditional love for yourself as well as for students. So I agree with what you're saying.
So we have this thing with so that once again, it's with the relationship. So I truly believe that in order for me to tell my students that I love them, I have to love myself.
Hey, right.
I have to, right? And if I'm not doing that, then I'm doing them a disservice. And so in my classes, or even like with the students I work with, relationship building is very important to me. And I talk to them about unconditional love, but I'm vulnerable enough to show my students unconditional love too. So there have been times when I literally will walk in a classroom and the kids will see that I'm drained. They will switch, and it seems as if they are the teachers that day and I am the student. And I am perfectly okay with that. Flip my class as many times as you need to, because we're all in this together. And it is okay for me to reposition myself that way, right? Because of the relationships that I have built. There are several times when I see students coming through the door and I say, you're not showing yourself love today. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give you 7. They know what 7 means. I'm gonna keep feeling it until they start to show it for themselves that particular day, because it is not good enough. You are not gonna tell me you're gonna go give 110% at your basketball practice and all of these classes, and by the time you lay your head down to sleep, you can't eat because you're not loving yourself enough. Every single day before my kids walk out the door, I tell them that they are awesome and that they are loved, and reminding them to practice self-care. Every single day. The minute they hear my voice, they freeze in their track, they turn and they listen. They already know this, right? And I think it's just constant, it's consistent. As far as like adults, I completely agree with you. You know what that happens here? It's egos. And it's a lot, sorry, it is. It's egos and a lot of fear of being vulnerable. Vulnerability is a strength. And many people do not see it that way. And it took me a very long time to get there. I didn't just like pop up, right? I hated being emotional. I hated being sensitive. I hated being like the heart person. And many times I felt people use that against me, right? But when I realized that that was my strength, that I'm the heart, it changed my entire perspective. My ability, I think it is, particularly at my school and certain areas I walk in, is that I have an ability to bring people together, because that is just what it should be. Like even the work that I do, I can never do all that work alone. But the relationships that I've created, showing people love, and when they see my tank is running empty, they have no problems filling my tank back up. It has to be reciprocity. And I think having people around you that believe that, and that's practicing that, and that's helping each other to do that, is what is needed. That would be our response to that.
Amen. We're going to wrap up here in this space. I think we beat.
Yeah. Thank you for this conversation, right? This is a real dope conversation with some amazing individuals right here. So this is my first time meeting this sister here. Incredible, amazing. I can use your contact information. And I work with this sister on a regular basis.
Yeah,
super dope.
We build our schools.
Okay, cool. I want to be there. So just have a real authentic conversation around education and just talking about just the straight up truth of what we're dealing with, without kind of going in concentric circles around critical issues. But Dr. Symonette, you said something that was just real that really hit me, right? And it's something that I talk about all the time, right? I work up in district leadership up in Palm Beach County. And amongst district leaders, when we have meetings, conversations, and discussions, right? Kids are never really even mentioned, to be honest with you, right? So you said something about, outside organizations coming in and really not having the interests of the kids, pretty much pimping our kids, right?
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, a lot of those same people are right there within the educational system, right? And then a lot of them are real high up and have a lot of power within the education, right? They have no interest of kids at all. And unfortunately, just like you said, a lot of them are teachers, but sometimes, when they get that ego, they get that position, they secure that little bag or whatever, because you got that real gap between the teacher salary and your district leadership, and they secure the bag, and they completely forget, about what it was to be in the classroom, right? And even among district leaders, I'm probably the only one that I know at my level that goes into classrooms on a regular basis, right? So you have a lot of people whose hearts and minds are definitely not in the right place, and it has no interest of kids as a whole, right? So kids are afterthought. Then specifically when you talk about black kids, that's an afterthought, right? That's beyond afterthought. That's not even a radar for these people, right? So the only time they even come around kids is only for a photo opportunity, right? They go put on Twitter, look at me at such and such school, elementary school, reading a book to a kid upside down or something like that, possibly, right? Not even really paying attention to what we're doing. And that's why it's important for us, just like you say, squad up. Right, you got dope educators like this sister here, this brother here, right? That are, and us inspiring this brother here to get his advanced degrees, to eventually become an educator, and eventually who's going to be in district leadership, right? That we're going to have to continue to kind of squad up so we can create that disposition, right? In addition to getting those advanced degrees, she keeps trying to talk me into getting a PhD, right? And like, every day I get closer to doing that. Because I was like, Kim, I'm gonna get a bachelor's and I'm done. I can't stand this, right? Then I got my master's and I said, I'm done, right? Then now it's like, oh man, I gotta get that PhD. And really kind of moving in spaces, and like you say, working with educational leaders to create a disposition. So we really trying to keep the kids at center of what we're here for. Just like I said, going back, I'm in a lot of meetings on a regular basis, right? And kids are never mentioned. People's hearts and minds are not in the right place, and that's why we're so disconnected, right? Because one of the things you started off as saying is like we have these trends and we have these buzzwords in education. That's why when you say culturally responsive, culturally relevant, equity, diversity, inclusion, multiculturalism, it means absolutely nothing, right? In educational spaces, because no one is really doing the work and putting the resources and money behind actually making that transformation happen within schools, right? Because to them, they read an article or two, right? I was like, yeah, because I say that all the time, like working people in my department, they get a little article, and I'm an expert, right, on black folks. You're right? I know black folks, black history and culture better than black people now, right? Because I read an article by Gloria Latson-Billings, and I'm done, right? And because we're so disconnected, and I say why those words mean nothing, is because culturally responsive becomes a one-size-fits-all approach, right? Of course, we do this, and like when B brought that example, I show a book with somebody black, and that's going to be culturally responsible for black children, and these people really are not, they're so disconnected, they don't understand the complexities of the people of the African diaspora. First of all, right, here, especially here in South Florida, right, and even in that class, right, she was talking about a black man, African American, but the majority of those kids were Haitian. First of all, right? We got common experiences as black people, but at the same time, we have, there are some differences in our culture. There's differences in every aspect. Our food, our music, the way we talk, our colloquialisms, and all that kind of stuff are very unique and different. And because of the disconnect, we're from leadership, we're not really learning who our kids are, and not even learning who our teachers are in front of our kids, right? So I always say, if I can say one magic thing that we need with the education. Somebody asked me that in a conversation. I was in Ohio having a conversation with somebody this summer on my cousin's wife, and she's a consultant. She said, what is one thing, your top thing on your wish list, right? And I said, it ain't gonna be money and resources like you think, right? Because if you look on this wall, we did far better with far less as black people at one point, right? It's about really rebuilding capacity with those in education. Around, first of all, what does teaching and learning look like, right? What does culturally responsive look like? Let's get rid of all that research from the PhDs and all those kind of people that did not have our kids in mind in the first place, right? And really start changing the educational institution that's really failing our kids because it's designed to fail our kids in the first place. So just kind of rebuilding and keep having these sustainable conversations which are real and authentic that we can squad up in addition to inspire. So thank y'all for this. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Wow, man. Oof. Maybe the one let you say 30 seconds. That's you. 30 seconds. Any parting words before we go? You feel we've said it all? But we didn't say it all. Like that. I know that's not the case. But
I'm not good at 30 seconds.
okay.
Yeah.
So how about one thing? So I know we talked about it, but is there a resource or something that a book or something that maybe we should connect to a writer, someone that maybe we should just be? And it could be connected, or it could just be read the latest. Go read Octavia Butler or something like that. So anything to drop us before we go.
I have a couple. I would check out Ivory Penny, How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check out his books. Check out all of them. Start with the Hubba Bubba cheeseburger one, the thick one. Right. Stand from the beginning. Yeah, it's huge. It's thick. King Ranino. Start with that one.
Who is it?
Kendi. Ivory Kendi.
Yes.
Start with that book.
Thank you.
I would say, can I say two? Yeah. Okay, right. Why are you trying to colonize me? Okay. All right, so one is Social Justice Parenting by Dr. Tracy Baxley. She's a professor at FAU, and she's a personal friend, but she is revolutionizing the ways in which we educate our children. And then another one would be Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain by Zaretta Hammond. Right? And so there's a lot of nuggets of knowledge in that book that helps you understand, because I mean, like if you love the brain and neurology and things like that, and understanding what does CRT, CRP, however you want to say it, does to the brain to connect students to the classroom, it's really a great read. So.
Yes.
Yes, no, thank you, ladies, because I was actually going to ask as a parent of a 2-year-old, but hearing what you were saying as a history teacher at your school, I have anxiety when it comes to when it's appropriate to talk about inequities with my daughter, but even more on what books or resources to give her as an alternative, because obviously I know that the schools won't be responsible for teaching her right history. So I thank you, ladies, for that.
Yeah, let's connect, 'cause there's a lot of children's literature that we can talk about today.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. So with that,
what resource do you have?
And the Walls Came Tumbling. It is a book of poetry written by Darius V. Daughtry. And it is so that's a shameless plug, very shameless. But also I say that, but not just for myself. And I was just on a call on a Zoom the other day with Dr. Symonette was on there as well. There's a whole thing about like teaching living poets, right? And so we always go back to, like somebody mentioned Martin Luther King Jr., right? Or we go back to Langston Hughes, right? But what's happening, like who's speaking about what's happening right now, and with the lens on today and what that feels like and looks like. And so I put my name out there because I'm living and I'm a poet, right? But there are other living poets, there are other living writers, people who are, it may not be academic work, but the artists have so much to say, right? And I know Bianca does work with hip hop and using that and how that looks in the classroom, right? From that lens. And so hip hop and poetry are sisters and cousins, So that's what I would say. So give it up for the ladies. It ain't over. We got a little thing for you right quick. So what we're going to do, don't leave, because we're about to get it in. So you heard Miami Sound Choir up here singing first, right? They're amazing. So now we're gonna form the Old Dillon Museum Sound Choir. And so we all about to be a part of this thing. So we're gonna ask Laura to come up and help us create the Old Dillon Museum Sound Choir. Also, while she does it, get ready, Glow Baby and, is it Glow Baby, did I say it right? Yes, it's all right. Glow Baby, Jasmine with her original earrings and stuff that she's made out there, so support that business. And also Sweetie's Italian Ice, another small business here, and make sure you get you a nice sweet treat before you get up out of here as well. All right, so Laura, come on.
Hello. You ready to sing?
Where we go?
Should we stay here?
You can stay right there.
Okay.
I think that's okay. So we're going to learn the last song that we did, which is called Run Mary Run. It's an African-American ring shout. So it is traditionally sung in a ring.
Okay, so we can ring it up.
So shall we? Ring it up.
Let's ring it up. Ladies, help us ring it up. You got a right to the tree of life.
Yeah, so that's going to happen a million times. That's most of the song. And then there's a cute little section that we're going to learn in a moment. Listen to the whole thing. Run, Mary, run. Run, Mary, run, I say. Run, Mary, run. You got a right to the tree of life. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, Mary, run.
You got a right to the tree of life.
Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life.
Run, 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 run.
You got it right. It happens 4 times. Ready, go.
I'm sorry.
Ready, go.
Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, Mary, run. Run, Mary, run, I say. Run, Mary, run. You got a right to the tree of life. You got a right to the tree of life.
Wonderful. You have the whole song. And now all we have to do is add some harmony. If you're a high voice person, you got your part. If you're a low voice person, you add the harmony. So they have Run, Mary, run. You'll have harmony in just a second. Just for the beginning. Your first 2 notes are gonna be the same. Instead of going Run, Mary, instead of going up, you're gonna have Run, Mary, those 2 notes. And once you got that, you're pretty golden. Run, Mary, run, go.
Run, Mary, run.
Run, Mary, run, I say.
Run, Mary, run, I say.
Run, Mary, run.
Run, Mary, run.
Same thing. You got a right to the tree of life.
You got a right to the tree of life.
You got it. Hey. Run, Mary, run. Run, Mary, run. 1, 2. Everybody sing.
Run, Mary, run. Run, Mary, run, I say. Run, Mary, run. You got a right to the tree of life. You got a right to the tree of life.
Run. Ready, here we go.
Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life.
Make sure you're saying you got it right and not you've got it right. You got it right to the tree of life. So that's the whole song. We start singing it all together in unison. Run, Mary, run. Regular in the melody. And then we'll sing that one more time. And then we're going to come in with the run, 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 run. Just the melody. And then you'll get this signal from me to tell you that we're singing. To tell you that we're singing in harmony.
Okay.
And that's when you all will drop down to your part. And then we'll take it to church.
All right, let's get it.
Run, Mary, run. 1, 2. Ready, here we go.
Run, Mary, run. Run, Mary, run, I say. Run, Mary, run. You got a right to the tree of life. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, Mary, run. Run, Mary, run, I say. Run, Mary, run. You got a right to the tree of life. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life. Run, 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 run. You got a right to the tree of life.
Tour of the space. Easton is here. He might be able to show you some more upstairs, what's going on. But we'll be here packing up and getting out of here in the next 20 minutes or so. Make sure you stop by, buy some earrings. Christmas is coming, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, you know, whatever you believe in. Go ahead and buy some earrings and buy some a nice ice. All right, peace. Peace, everybody.